Jeez. Stop shaking. We're live. Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm Amanda Call. This is a blank comic page. This is going to be I Am the First, issue 5, page 17. Right now, it's just some panel borders and one little perspective grid, but we're going to turn this into a comic page. I have my thumbnails off to the side here. You can see how the panel layout looks pretty much the same. I have my script over here. I'm not really gonna yep, that's a script. I'm not gonna show you any more of it. I don't want to give anything away. But yeah, I have those right nearby so I can keep an eye on them and remind myself what I'm supposed to be doing here. Hey, Hungry, thanks so much for joining me. So first I'm gonna start just kind of roughing stuff in. See, what is this? This is so what I'm working on now is actually an action page, a fight between our main protagonist and our main antagonist. Hey, Spud. Thanks so much for joining me. Okay, that's a very rough sketch to get started. That's gonna need some refinement. It's a little wonky yet. So yeah, this is I only have a couple of pages in like all of issue 5 that I feel like I can even work on stream, because it's like, yeah, this is the ending of the book. I don't want to give away too much of what happens. So okay, more action. That'll make sense in a bit, hopefully, maybe. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do any more I Am the First pages on stream after this one, because I'm having a hard time finding ones that aren't too spoilery. It's just like, yes, this is Alec and Donner fighting again, but that's like, a thing that they do. So that's not really a spoiler, but a lot of the stuff that happens in the fight is kind of like, oh no, I don't want to give that away. I think that's a little too far over. We're going to move that back. That's looking a little close yet. Move that back a little bit. Okay. Stuff flying all over the place. If you've read issue 2, then you'll note that this scene looks a little bit familiar. Kind of like a callback to something that happens in issue 2. It's like, I don't know, it's like Jeremy's good at writing or something. So, just in case you aren't familiar, I did not write pretending I'm whistling because of the birds. No. Still have my little bird friends in here with me. I just was cleaning out their enclosure before the stream. Oh, they're getting so big. It's like I gotta clean out their little enclosure like constantly, or it gets so nasty. The chickens should be able to go outside hopefully in the next week or so, but I've got to like clean the chicken coop and set up their little corner of it, and all of that stuff before I can move them out. I'm hoping I will get to do that this weekend, weather permitting. We're having like a lot of rain and flooding right now in Maine. I've seen pictures on Facebook of people in like the Augusta and Carrabassett Valley areas, and they're like super duper flooded. One of my friends posted a picture of outside her office in downtown Augusta, and the river was like completely overflowing. It's just okay. And I went for a walk today, and our river, there's like a little swamp that goes into the river and goes right under the road in one area, and it was like a foot away from just going over the road. Hey, it's Alan Barr. Thanks for joining me, Alan. I thankfully live up high enough that like I'm right on the river, but I've got a very, very tall bank, so I don't have to worry about like my house flooding. I do have to be concerned with getting trapped. I do have to be concerned with the end of my road being underwater and not being able to go anywhere. So we'll see what happens. The water was still pretty high today, and we didn't get any rain, but then we're supposed to get more rain the next couple of days, and I'm just like, that might be a problem. So if it ever stops freaking raining, then I'll be able to clean the chicken coop and put the little chickies out in it. That'll be fun. Your presence is a present, Helen. It always is. You're doing comic work right now too. Are you scripting? Are you doing layout? What are you working on? Lettering? Oh, fun. I enjoy lettering. Even when I foolishly do it by hand, I still enjoy it. Yeah, a font meaning a voice is really nice. Yeah, that's really cool. That's a cool effect to use. It's one of the cool things about comics where it's like everything has a visual representation. Okay, that's a very awkward fist situation. That's all right. We'll fix that pose. It's looking a little bit weird and awkward right now, but we'll fix it. Okay, we've got everything kind of roughed in on here. That didn't take very long because it's only a few panels. But I'm going to have a lot of like correction to do to some of these basic gestures. They're a little, some of them are a little wonky. That's okay. We're going to work on it. I need to sharpen my pencil though. That's getting quite dull. That's a little better anyway. All right. I just don't like the way his like head is attaching here. Figure out like, what is your arm doing, sir? Where is your ear? Somewhere over there. I guess that works. Yep. So the little birds. Hey, someone saying, thanks for joining me. The little birds are running around in their enclosure. They're very excited that they have fresh chips. And they're a little bit upset that I disturbed them this evening, but they do have nice, clean chips. Yeah, I'll miss them too, but I will not miss having to constantly clean their little enclosures and refill their water and food like a dozen times a day. And everything in my studio being vaguely dusty. The chicken dust. But the older chicks are pretty close to being ready to go outside. I've got to I was saying earlier, I've got to get the big coop cleaned out, the outside chicken coop where all the adult chickens are. Got to get it cleaned. And then I set up like I take like a corner of the big coop and I put I'm cording it off with some chicken wire and a little roof so that and then they stay in there for like a couple of weeks. Way more space than they have in here in like their playpen. But it keeps them in the chicken coop with the other chickens, so like with the adult chickens, so they can get used to each other. Because if you just throw a bunch of babies in or like teenager chickens, I guess, in with the big chickens, they'll just beat the crap out of them. And there'll be a little bit of that eventually, still, like a little bit of it as they figure out their pecking order is kind of unavoidable. But if you give them a couple weeks to get used to each other without being able to actually touch each other, then after they have those couple of weeks to adjust to each other's presence and you let the babies out to be fully integrated with the big chickens, then they're like, oh, yeah, it's just you guys, whatever. And you might have a few little squabbles as they figure out who's in charge, but you don't have like the, quick, let's all gang up on them and try to eat them nonsense that you would get otherwise. So the chicken chicks will start that process soon. And then probably as soon as they graduate, I'll be able to put the guinea chicks out there. So there'll still be little chirps in here for a while yet because the guinea chicks are still a ways off from being able to go outside. All right, let's clean up some of Alex's face here. What is happening with your mouth, sir? It's this extra line over here. There we go. I think I'm about to run out of pencil on this one. Let me see. I want to sharpen it some more. Still feeling a little chunky. But oh yeah, look at that. Look at that. Thankfully, I have plenty more of these. I need to fetch one. Okay, I theoretically have plenty more of these. I need to find where. Where? Oh goodness. Okay. No, I still haven't cleaned my studio, even though I very much need to. Okay, I found some. I found them. These are the Staedtler Mars Lumicrom Blues. I've tried a few different things. This is what I like the best. I used to use the Prismacolor Coal Erase all the time, but they started getting quite crappy. Like I would sharpen through. I still have a couple of boxes tucked away over here for, backups, but they were getting so crappy. Like you'd sharpen half the pencil away and the lead inside would just like the pigment inside would just keep crumbling the whole way down. It was very frustrating. And they are too expensive for that nonsense. So this, well, the Staedtler blue pencil inserts are not cheap by any means, but they at least hold together. I'm not wasting them. They're not falling apart before I can even use them. And it's not super frustrating using them, so that's worth a lot. I think we're going to give this some kind of more dramatic shading here. You write for your comic, how do you begin? An actual story format, a script style, or some other format? So when I'm writing for my comic, which my comic being Age of Night, I Am the First is written by Jeremy. So he does it as like a script. But he formatted his script to follow like my preferred working style of how I work from a script, but I'll get into that in a minute. So when I'm working on mine, like it starts with just a bunch of disjointed notes in many different notebooks over the course of months or years, since my project has been ongoing for quite a while. And it'll be like, yes, this needs to happen at some point. And then as I start plotting a particular chapter, it'll be like, this is the time that thing needs to happen that I wrote down in a different notebook a while ago. And I'll write like a handful of notes of like, okay, what needs to happen in this chapter? And then I'll take the little brainstorm document and I'll like use that as a guideline for like a checklist to do an outline of like, okay, well, then this scene has to happen. And here's like a slightly more detailed description of what that scene's going to be like. And then this scene needs to happen. And I make sure I go through the checklist and get everything that needs to belong there. And then when I have that nice detailed outline, then I start actually scripting. And the way that I like to write scripts is that it's basically just dialogue and direction of like, character does this thing, like makes this expression, picks up this item, punches this guy, etc. I do not break down the panels at this point, which is a way to make comic scripts. You can certainly, hey, Dark Doritos 123, thanks for joining me. You certainly can include a bunch of like direction at that point. A lot of people do, where they're like, okay, this panel, so page 4 is going to have one big panel across the top that shows this thing, and then a series of 3 panels that show this thing. And that is a way you can script. I don't like doing it that way. I don't think that that's very effective for the way my brain works, and it takes all the fun out of the actual like figuring out the panels later on. And also like I just do like very basic character says this, character does that. And I don't even worry about like a page breakdown at that point. I just write what happens as the script and who says what. And then, very detailed, but not detailed as far as direction, not detailed as far as like the contents of each panel and how to do the visual storytelling. That's the type of script I like to work from. And then I actually figure out like what is the visual flow going to be and what are those different storytelling decisions I'm going to make for each panel, I figure out once I start doing thumbnails, which I find to be the way I prefer to work. And I find that that gives me better results than trying to think about, like, what is what is each panel going to look like? What is each page going to cover at the scripting stage? And so when Jeremy and I started working together on I Am the First, I sent him some of my Age of Night scripts, and I was like, this is what I want my scripts to look like. Like, when I'm writing for myself, this is what my scripts look like. So, you know, if your scripts can be sort of like this, as far as like the level of direction that you have, that would be preferable. And he was like, no problem. That saves me a lot of work. Because part of the thing too is that if you're not, like, if you don't have a lot of experience making comics, if you don't have a lot of experience making those visual storytelling decisions, then you might have a hard time doing it. You might make some not great decisions. And then the artist is kind of like, oh, I'm stuck with this as my script. Which, you know, if you have a good working relationship with them, they can just be like, hey, I think this might work better. But it saves you a lot of time if you don't even have to do that and can just be like, nah, I'm just going to do it myself. So that's how I approach it. It was a very long, involved answer. And hopefully it actually answered your question. I don't even know if it did. How was the convention? Oh, good. I'm glad that it was actually a helpful answer. How was the convention? The convention was fine. I did not make a lot of sales, which sometimes just sort of happens. But I had a very good time. It seemed like it was fairly well attended. It was kind of hard to tell because I saw pictures of there being a lot of people there, so I'm going to have to take it on faith that it was well attended. But it was very cramped, like the layout was of the floor, so I had a hard time seeing anything other than what was like directly in front of my table. Seemed to be a lot of people directly in front of my table at different points throughout the weekend. I guess that means it was busy. I guess that means it was well attended. No, I had a very good time meeting people and showing some new people my comic and hanging out with my fellow creators, which is always my favorite part. Got a big old fire explosion going on here. But yeah, sometimes you just don't have a particularly profitable convention, but that doesn't have to mean that you have a bad time either. Some of my friends seemed to do quite well, and some of my friends also had kind of like meh, okay, just okay sales, and that happens. I got little bits of fire flying out all over the place here. I will say one of the funniest interactions I had all weekend was this guy comes up to my table and he looks through my comics, through Age of Night specifically, and he's like, "Oh wow, I really love the art style." I'm like, "Hey, thanks, man." Uh, and he's like, "It's really cool. It reminds me of Tintin a little bit." And I'm like, and I've heard that before, and that's a compliment as far as I'm concerned. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, I when I try to describe my style to people, I usually say it's a little bit of like a Euro comic style." So, yeah, I'm glad that people respond to it that way. Cool. And then he's like flipping through some more and he's just kind of chatting with me for a bit. Uh and then he's like, "It also reminds me of Junji Ito." And I'm like, "Okay, that's also obviously very much a compliment. A little bit of a departure from Tintin, but okay." I'm like, "Oh, cool. Thanks, man. It's another really great compliment. I love Ito's work. I think that's a great, great compliment. Thanks so much." And then he's like chatting with me for a little while. And then he's like, "Also reminds me of like courtroom sketches." And now I just have no idea how to respond to that because I'm just like, What? 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 Like, and he's like, "Not in a bad way." And I'm just thinking to myself, I is there a good or bad way to take this? I'd have no idea. I'm just confused at this point. Now I am just confused. I'm like, thanks. And he never really gave me a reason that I could comprehend as to why my work reminded him of courtroom sketches. Uh, I don't know. I don't know what that was about. Uh, okay. And then after looked through my book and chatted some more, and then he went, "Wow, that's really cool. I'll take your card." "Yep, sure, card's right over there. But I don't have any money, so I can't buy anything. But looked really cool. Thanks for chatting with me." And then he left. And I was just like, I which is totally fine. Lots of people get to a certain point in a con, they've run out of money or they didn't come with a lot of spending money and they just want to like scope new things out, and that's all totally fine. But I was just left very bewildered after that whole experience cuz I'm just like, "Tintin, Junji Ito, courtroom sketches." Not really sure what to make of that. If one of you manages to figure it out, do let me know. Oh, goodness. Funny. I also had one of those, like, uh, I'm not quite sure what I'm not quite sure why you asked me to draw this, but sure, uh, commissions. There was a convention courtroom sketches I don't see. Yeah, I can't say as I consume a lot of courtroom sketches media, so I don't really have a good, baseline of comparison here. Very odd. Uh Yeah, I always think of this. So I had a guy come up and commission me for it was like a sketch commission for 3 different characters, and one of them was a Pokemon. I don't know what Pokemon because I don't really I recognize the character design style as being Pokemon, but I don't know my Pokemon outside of like your basic starters. Uh so I do not know what Pokemon it was. Something cute with like a big fin on the back of its head. I don't know. Anyway, but it was like a Pokemon, a robot, and a snake who was wearing like a scene kid outfit. I don't know. Didn't they were didn't seem like they were the other two things were not Pokemon. So I don't know like what they were about specifically, but I guess this was just 3 characters this guy liked, which is totally fine. It always just reminds me though when I get like very random requests like that of one year at MegaCon many years ago now. I had 2 different people commission me for Mega Man sketches. And I was just like, I'm not really sure what about my style is telling you Mega Man is the thing you want to commission me for. But like, okay, sure, I'll draw you a Mega Man, I guess. I don't. So anytime I get a very, very random sketch request, I'm just like, Mega Man. Sometimes I think it might just be that there's not a lot of people doing commissions, although that was certainly not the case at MegaCon. There were lots of people doing commissions at MegaCon, but at this particular convention, there were only a handful of us, me and my friend Jesse, and maybe like one or two others. Some people like to see their favorite characters drawn in other people's styles. Yeah, definitely. That is definitely a thing of like, I just want to get as many different options for my favorite character as possible, which is kind of cool. Yeah. Always just makes me a little bit like, wait, what? You want me to draw what? Which can be kind of fun because that's always a response of something I would have never thought of drawing on my own. I would have never just sat down one day and been like, I'm gonna draw Mega Man. Just a thing that happens. So that was pretty cool. It was also freezing because we were on the ice in the arena. I guess hockey season isn't over. And they just put the little like plastic thingies down on the ice. And so it was very cold in the arena. And it was like not really uncomfortably cold if you had been dressed properly. I think I would have been fine, but I didn't realize the ice was still going to be in the arena. And so I did not dress appropriately. And so I'm wearing like, fun con clothes, like, a light flowy rayon Ren Fair dress that's made to be comfortable in warm weather. And I didn't pack like any leggings or anything because usually at conventions you tend to be a little bit warm because there's so many people. And so I was very cold. And like it was considerably far from my house. We like stayed at an Airbnb, so if I didn't pack it, I didn't have it. So it was just chilly all weekend. And there was also like most of the show was on the arena floor, and then there was also like the concourse up like above the first layer of stadium seating. The whole concourse had like vendors and everything in it. And I went to check that out at one point and to get a snack, and they had like heaters. They had like those nice big like radiant heaters near the outer doors, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so jealous." Just want to sit up here on the concourse under the heater like a lizard. Oh, someone saying says that they recently got Hulu and discovered My Hero Academia. I get a Mega Man feeling from the characters in that. I still haven't watched My Hero Academia. I see lots of people cosplay from it. I know that's one that a lot of people really like. I do currently have like it said it's on Hulu. Oh, I have a Hulu subscription. I can check that out at some point. Have to do that. Yeah, I had a shawl that was keeping me warm, and I had like a hoodie, but I didn't really want to wear the hoodie over like the fun convention clothes I had packed, so I just kind of wrapped up in a in a shawl. My Hero Academia is pretty all right. Pretty all right. stories provide background without getting overly convoluted. Well, that's good. Okay, we've got all right. We got oh, that's not the right end of the eraser, Amanda. Not that I mind convoluted themes. It's just nice to sit back and enjoy something without thinking too much about it sometimes. Yeah, for sure. You got to have a good mix of like media where you don't need to use your brain and media where you do. There are different times where one or the other is more of what you're in the mood for. How are we doing on time? Oh, it's 8:43 already. Making good time. All right. Gotta my pencil's getting all dull again. It needs to be a little bit sharper than that if we're gonna work on a face. On a face. Loving the angles and gestures of the panels. Hey, thanks so much, Jason. Yeah, it's an action fight scene. I'm trying to make it all dynamic and stuff. Artist in me wants to draw pages that flow, and my brain is having trouble writing a story that's compatible with fitting into that. Oh, I see. The reason I asked about your writing method earlier is because I'm trying to plot some ideas of my own. Yeah, it's a challenge. Definitely, I would say that like I sometimes struggle quite a bit with writing just because I don't do it as much as the other steps. Like I do not spend anywhere near as much actual time writing as I do literally any other part of the process. Um, so it's always challenging in that way. But what is actually like technically the most difficult skill is definitely the page layouts, like deciding when I'm doing the thumbnails, deciding where does everything go? How does it all fit together? How do I get this to flow? How do I get this to make sense? How do I get it to all fit on a page within all of that? Like that's definitely the hardest because there's so many different little moving pieces to that. All right, more fireballs. Speed lines. Wee. What is that noise? What are you birds doing? Okay. Yay. Action. Bam, bam, bam. I mean, I guess I would ask someone saying, what do you want to write a story about? What's the kind of thing that you enjoy writing about or enjoy reading about? Or what's a world that you're excited to spend a lot of time drawing in? Because that's the biggest thing with a comic is you had better pick something that you're very excited about because you're going to spend a lot of time there. It's going to take a very long time. So, unless you want to start with like just a few short stories, which is a really good option too, of just making a couple little short stories, get your feet wet, get an idea of what you want to do, what works for you, what your process feels like. Oh, it's already 8:50, so we're gonna start doing the YouTube things because we're in the last 10 or so minutes of the stream. I'm going to remind everybody that I'm Amanda Call. This is my YouTube channel, and every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, I am doing one of these live streams where I'm working on usually comics, sometimes other art. Currently, you can see me working on a page from I Am the First, which is written by my friend Jeremy Flagg and drawn by me. The first 3 issues are out. Issue 4 will be out soon. You can find out more about that on bravenewcomics.com. You can also frequently find me on here working on my webcomic, Age of Night, which you can read at ageofnight.com, AGEOFNIGHT.com. Let's see. The other part of the problem is your attention span is jumpy when it comes to personal projects. Currently toying with 2 ideas, one being pretty dark and the other is much later, and part of the reason I decided to give My Hero Academia a look. Yeah, that's fun. Either one of those, I'm sure you could have a lot of fun with. And I was talking with some of my friends this weekend at the con about like working on their various personal, well, all of us working on our various personal projects, and how usually we almost all have like a few different ideas going at any different time. Like we'll sketch a little bit here, we'll write a little bit there, we'll make some notes. And it's basically you just kind of keep picking away at like what we all tend to do is we just kind of keep on picking away at the concepts until one of them, like, I guess you could say, gains traction, where you get that moment where it just like catches and you're like, oh yeah, I got it. Like I know where to go with this now. And you can't really like force that moment to happen when you're just kind of batting ideas around, but I think it's okay to recognize too that it's okay to spend some time there and wait for the thing to be like, oh yeah, that's the thing I really want to work on when it comes to personal projects, for sure. Like you're doing it for yourself. There's no reason to like beat yourself up about trying to get one thing to just force its way out. What was I saying? I lost my train of thought. But yeah, I was doing the thing. So yeah, if you like watching me work on comics, you should like this video, subscribe to the channel, all that fun stuff. Check out I Am the First at Brave New Comics. Check out Age of Night at ageofnight.com. If you want to help support me making comics, you can do so on my Patreon, which is patreon.com/ageofnight. You can follow me on various social media as either Amanda Call Art or Age of Night, spelled just like the comic. That hand is goofy looking. We're going to have to do some work there. That's looking very silly. I think that might be a next week problem. There we go. Okay. What else? I don't have another convention coming up this month, being May, but May is always like real busy with like school and family stuff. So that's just not happening this month. But I will be at Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina in mid-June. I'm looking forward to that. I've never been to Heroes Con before. We'll have all sorts of fun. I am the first stuff there. And I'll have copies of Age of Night, and I'll be super excited to meet a bunch of people in a place I have not done a comic convention before. So that's exciting. All right, that's I think where we're going to stop for this evening. We started with just some empty panel borders and one perspective grid. At this point, we got everything roughed in. We have 3 panels, 1, 2, 3, completely penciled. And we've got a pretty good start on this one down here. Yeah, so that'll be where we will pick up. Next week, we will try to finish penciling, maybe get into starting some inking. We'll see where we end up. But thanks, everybody, for hanging out with me, and I will see you next time. Bye.